Hey guys, tonight we journey back to a time where the Maya lived in perfect harmony with the celestial and natural world, orchestrating every aspect of life through a detailed understanding of time. Imagine, you step out under the warm, golden sky, and the sun is just beginning to set, casting long shadows over the jungle around you. Above, the sky is a canvas of stars, and every flicker seems to have meaning. The Maya didn't just see time as a linear, passing thing. To them, time was alive, flowing through everything: their rituals, their farming, and even their very survival. You might have thought you were just living your life, but the Maya understood that your very existence was intricately linked to the heavens above. Now, you probably won't survive this, at least. Not in the sense of simply observing it as a tourist. You're about to step into their shoes, feeling the weight of the steers and the cycles of the moon tugging at you. But don't worry, I'll guide you through every moment of it. As you watch the sun sink lower, think of how the Maya saw the world. The celestial movements weren't some distant, abstract thing. They were a part of their daily lives, from the moment they woke up to the second they went to sleep. They didn't just follow time, they worshipped it, shaped their existence around it, and believed that to live in sync with time was to live in harmony with the cosmos itself. It's a beautiful thing, isn't it? The very idea that you're not just a passerby in time, but a player in an endless cosmic dance. The Maya's connection to time wasn't based on any modern concept of seconds, minutes, or hours. To them, time was cyclical, repeating and moving through endless loops, constantly returning to a point of origin. You might be thinking, how could this ancient civilization, with no clocks, no digital calendars, and no Apple Watches, possibly keep track of time with such precision? The answer is simple and mind-blowing. They had two incredibly sophisticated calendar systems. Not just one, two. This was the heart of their understanding of time, and everything from daily activities to major life events like birth, death, and marriage revolved around them. The first of these systems was the Tzolk'in, a sacred calendar composed of 260 days. Now, don't let that number fool you. It wasn't just a random number picked out of the blue. The Maya believed the number 260 had deep cosmic significance. It was thought to be the time it took for the sun to travel from the zenith, directly overhead, to the horizon, marking a complete cycle of celestial movement. This calendar, tied to spiritual life, was deeply woven into their everyday existence. Every day had a specific energy, depending on its place in the cycle of the Tzolk'in. It was said that each day had its own unique combination of a number, from 1 to 13, and a day sign, like toad or jaguar, which carried specific meanings and spiritual significance. So, every morning, when the Maya woke up, they knew exactly which energy was governing the day. Imagine waking up knowing that today was the day for new beginnings, or the day to perform a ceremony for the gods, or perhaps even the day to launch a new crop into the soil. For the Maya, time was an opportunity to connect with something larger than themselves. The Tzolk'in wasn't just a tool, it was a guide to a better life, a life in alignment with the universe. But wait, there's more, because they didn't stop at the Tzolk'in. The Maya also used the Hab calendar, a 365-day solar calendar. This one was based on the Earth's orbit around the sun. If you thought the Tzolk'in was complex, the Hab was a whole new level. The Hab was divided into 18 months of 20 days each, with one extra month of just 5 days to round out the year. This made it incredibly accurate, not just for tracking the seasons, but for predicting when agricultural tasks needed to be completed. Imagine being a farmer in ancient Maya society. You don't have the luxury of modern farming tools or even modern weather forecasts. But what you do have is an understanding of when to plant and when to harvest, all based on your deeply precise calendar. The Hab calendar wasn't just about predicting the seasons, it was about predicting the very rhythms of life itself. It was said that the arrival of certain months or days was so significant that the Maya held elaborate ceremonies to honor them, and agricultural cycles were carefully planned according to them so. These celestial moments weren't simply marking the passage of time. They were sacred events that connected the people to their gods and their ancestors. But the Maya didn't stop there. And here's where it gets even more interesting. The Tzolk'in and Hab calendars didn't exist in isolation. They overlapped and interacted. The Maya invented what is called the calendar round, a system that combined both the 260-day Tzolk'in and the 365-day Hab into a 52-year cycle. When you think about it, that's pretty brilliant. Imagine the complexity required to synchronize these two cycles. This was how the Maya kept track of longer periods of time, predicting important events like eclipses, crop yields, and sacred rituals over multiple generations. Historians still argue whether the calendar round was strictly a practical tool or whether it also had profound spiritual significance. Some scholars believe that the Maya saw these overlapping cycles as a form of divinity, a manifestation of cosmic order. Others believe that the calendar round served a purely agricultural purpose, keeping the Maya in perfect harmony with the land and the heavens. Regardless of the debate, one thing is clear. The Maya weren't just tracking days. They were living in a deeply connected, cyclical world where every day, month, and year was a piece of the cosmic puzzle. So now you understand why the Maya were so attuned to the movements of time. Every moment, every event, every task was anchored in their understanding of the heavens above and the earth below. But this cosmic awareness didn't just stop with the calendar. It extended into every corner of their society. From the design of their cities to the rituals they performed to honor the gods, time was both a sacred and practical force that guided their lives. As you stand there, gazing at the sky, you can almost feel the weight of the stars. The Maya weren't just gazing up for pleasure. They were seeking guidance, meaning, and connection. The stars above weren't distant. They were as close as the very air they breathed, each one a symbol of something larger than themselves. And as the night draws near and the stars begin to twinkle overhead, you can almost hear the ancient voices of the Maya, whispering the sacred rhythms of time. The Maya were far from mere stargazers, though. Their intricate relationship with time extended well beyond the boundaries of any one calendar. As you walk deeper into the heart of their civilization, imagine the steady hum of daily life unfolding in synchronization with cosmic rhythms. The sun's rays gently warm your skin as the day progresses. But there's more to this moment than just warmth and light. Every movement, every task was part of a much larger cosmic symphony that determined the way the Maya lived their lives. This was their version of reality. Everything from the planting of crops to the timing of ceremonies had to be perfectly aligned with the universe's rhythms. One of the key concepts that governed the Maya's relationship with time was the Tzolk'in, a 260-day calendar system so deeply woven into the fabric of their daily existence that it almost became a spiritual guide. You might think of it as the Maya's personal version of a horoscope, but it was far more profound than that. In fact, historians still argue whether it had more to do with agriculture or whether it was primarily a ritualistic framework. Some believe that Tzolk'in was created to track the cycles of the moon and the natural world, but others maintain that it was tied directly to religious and spiritual matters, so much so that it held sway over every individual's fate. The Tzolk'in's 260 days were divided into 13 cycles of 20 named days. Each day in the Tzolk'in had its own energy, symbolized by an animal, deity or natural force, and a number from 1 to 13. The Maya used this calendar to decide everything, from marriage dates to the timing of religious ceremonies, even when a child was born. For instance, being born on a 7-Ahau day could have meant that a child was destined for greatness, while a 4-Kan day might imply someone with a deep connection to the earth. Each day had its own meaning, one that tied the individual to the universe. These names and numbers were not just whimsical associations, they were seen as having cosmic significance. You can picture it now. The moment a baby was born, the priests would consult the Tzolk'in and determine the most auspicious day, helping to map out the future of the child. Imagine the weight of that decision, knowing that this tiny being would carry with them the energy of the universe. But the Tzolk'in didn't just govern personal affairs. It was the tool by which priests and rulers determined the most sacred moments for planting crops, offering sacrifices, and performing rituals. If you were a Maya priest, you'd have been at the center of it all, interpreting these divine signs and aligning the people with the very forces of nature. One of the more peculiar elements of the Tzolk'in was its ability to combine with the Hab calendar, a 365-day solar calendar that tracked the solar year. The Hab calendar wasn't as spiritually loaded as the Tzolk'in, but it played a vital role in everyday activities. The Maya used the Hab to track seasons, mark the transition from wet to dry seasons, and even manage agricultural cycles. Imagine the Maya farmer who knew exactly when to plant maize based on the signals of the sun and the stars, thanks to the Hab calendar. A well-timed planting could mean the difference between a bountiful harvest and a failed one. However, the real magic happened when the Tzolk'in and Hab calendars combined. This led to the creation of what was called the calendar round, a 52-year cycle that combined both calendars. In this system, each day was assigned a unique combination of a number and a day name from the Tzolk'in and the Hab date. This system resulted in a 52-year period before the exact same day and date would recur. For the Maya, this was an important cycle. It marked a complete cycle of life, death, and rebirth, a period that was both cosmic and spiritual. When a calendar round was completed, the Maya believed that they had lived through a full cosmic cycle. This wasn't just about agriculture or counting days, it was a deeply religious concept, symbolizing the cyclical nature of existence. This belief in cyclical time can be overwhelming, but it also gave the Maya a sense of calm. The constant return of events, the way the stars would guide their rituals and work, provided a comforting rhythm to their lives. It wasn't about rushing forward. It was about living in the flow of time, knowing that every ending was just the beginning of something new. Historians still debate how much of this was rooted in spirituality and how much was practical. But for the Maya, the two were inseparable. As you stand in the midst of this vibrant civilization, you can feel the pulse of time all around you. The stars above you are not just dots in the sky. They are markers in a greater pattern, a pattern that the Maya knew intimately. Every celestial event, from the rising of the Pleiades to the movement of Venus, had meaning. The Maya tracked these events meticulously, ensuring their rituals and ceremonies were held at the right time. Whether it was the dawn of a new cycle in the Tzolk'in, or the zenithal sun when the sun passed directly overhead during the solstice, each event was an opportunity to connect with the divine. Take a moment to think about how the Maya must have felt, standing on top of one of their great pyramids, looking out over the land below. The stars above were not distant, they were familiar. The movements of the sun were not abstract, they were family. Every season, every year, every cycle was part of the great, never-ending dance between the heavens and the earth. For the Maya, time wasn't just a sequence of moments, it was a living, breathing part of their world. You feel the pull of the stars above, and it's hard not to be in awe of their precise understanding of time. Every movement, every choice was guided by the cosmos. This isn't just a civilization that existed in time, it is one that lived within it, breathed with it, and danced alongside it. And as you take in the sight of the night sky, filled with constellations and planets you can almost touch, you can feel the Maya's deep connection to the world around them. Their lives, marked by the cycles of the stars, were a beautiful reflection of the natural world, where time was more than just something that passed, it was something that shaped them. The Maya were not just stargazers or calendar makers, they were timekeepers in the truest sense. Every day was not just a series of hours passing, but a moment of profound significance, carefully connected to the larger cosmos. Imagine the buzz of anticipation that filled the air during each turn of the Tzolk'in. The Maya knew, deep down, that each day had its own destiny, its own purpose. And because the Tzolk'in was such an integral part of their life, it wasn't just a private affair, it was a collective one. As the sun dipped below the horizon, you could feel the collective heartbeat of a civilization that viewed time as a thread binding them to the very universe. You might think that time only governed the grand moments of life, like birth or death. But for the Maya, it extended to the smallest moments. Every action, from gathering food to brushing off dust, was part of the grand design. Take, for instance, the Maya priests. They were the ones who held the keys to understanding the calendar's rhythms. Their knowledge was passed down through generations, revered and highly respected. To be a priest was to hold the universe's pulse in your hands, and you could almost hear the soft rustling of papyrus scrolls as they documented every celestial event, every sacred date. The priests were more than just spiritual guides. They were integral to the societal structure, and much of this power stemmed from their understanding of time. Historians still argue whether the Maya priests were more than just religious figures. Some claim they were also political leaders, using their knowledge of the calendar to maintain control over the population. This makes sense when you think about it. Imagine that the timing of harvests, war, or marriage was in the hands of a select group of people. The sway they held over the Maya was immense. They didn't simply tell people when to pray or when to make offerings. They guided them through their lives, both spiritually and practically. This is where the Tzolk'in's connection to the gods comes in. Each day was associated with a specific deity or force of nature. And the Maya believed that performing certain rituals on the right day would bring blessings or avert disaster. If you were living in a Maya city, the day you were born could determine the shape of your entire life, and that knowledge would stay with you throughout your days. A day marked by Chak, the rain god, might bring an abundance of crops, while a day governed by Ixchel, the goddess of love, might bring about romantic unions or spiritual awakenings. On a personal level, this meant that the Maya were constantly aware of how their lives fit into a larger, cosmic picture. Imagine how different your life would be if you had a calendar that didn't just tell you what the day was, it told you what kind of day it was. Each day wasn't just a number. It was a sign, a guide, a force that interacted with your destiny. But the Tzolk'in didn't just impact the private lives of individuals, it was the skeleton of the Maya political system as well. The Maya were, after all, a deeply hierarchical society, and the ruler, or Ajah, was seen as the intermediary between the gods and the people. It was the ruler's duty to ensure that the sacred days of the Tzolk'in aligned with their governance. If a ruler were born on an unlucky day, it could spell disaster for their reign. If their reign coincided with bad omens on the calendar, it could signify a time of drought, famine, or war. As you stand in the bustling market square, with merchants trading everything from cocoa to jade, you can almost sense the tension in the air. People looked to the Ajah not just for leadership, but for divine protection. How long would a ruler last if they couldn't read the signs of the gods? This relationship between the Tzolk'in and politics isn't just speculative, it's written in stone. Maya inscriptions often record the birthdays of rulers, noting the specific day and month they were born according to the Tzolk'in calendar. These inscriptions also record important events, such as the building of temples or the waging of wars, linked to particular days. This alignment of time and politics created a system where the ruler's decisions were often seen as divinely inspired. Historians still debate the extent to which rulers truly believed they were divinely guided, or if this was a carefully constructed system to maintain control. The fact remains that the calendars were at the heart of both their spiritual and political life, intertwining the sacred and the worldly in a seamless blend. Now, let's take a step back and look at how the Maya experienced this intricate web of time from a more everyday perspective. You've already seen the grand ceremonies, the political intrigues, and the priestly rituals that were all governed by the calendars. But what about the farmers, the laborers, the ordinary people who lived in the Maya cities and villages? How did they interact with the cycles of time? Imagine you are a Maya farmer in the middle of a bustling city. The sounds of people haggling at the market filling your ears. It's harvest season, and the crops are ready to be gathered. You look up to the sky, where the sun is beginning to dip. According to the Hab calendar, you know this is the perfect time to begin the harvest. The timing isn't arbitrary. It's the alignment of the seasons with the calendar, something you learned from your elders. You begin your work in the early morning, when the light is gentle and the air is cool. The sacred rhythm of the Tzolk'in is still present in your life. Today is a day governed by Itzamna, the creator god, and you know that it is a day of abundance and growth. You offer a silent prayer, thanking the gods for the crops that will nourish your family. Every day, every action feels like a step within a larger cycle, one that you are intimately connected to. As you move through your day, it's hard not to feel the weight of the universe guiding you. For the Maya, time wasn't just a construct, it was a living, breathing force that shaped every moment, from the most mundane to the most sacred. The cosmic dance of the Tzolk'in and Hab wasn't something that existed above their heads. It was embedded in their daily lives, shaping their world and their actions in ways that modern society can barely begin to comprehend. The cycles of the Tzolk'in and Hab ensured that the Maya lived in constant communion with time. Whether it was the planting of crops, the birth of a child, or the construction of a temple, Every moment had its own place in the larger pattern of the universe. Time wasn't something they simply passed through, it was something they participated in. And as the stars twinkled in the night sky above, you could almost hear the echo of their footsteps, moving in rhythm with the cosmos. Imagine standing in the heart of a Maya city. The jungle around you is alive with the sounds of birds and rustling leaves, but here, the bustle of life is centered around the grand pyramid at the city's core. The sun is climbing higher, casting long shadows across the stone plazas, where people gather to offer food, perform rituals, or trade goods. As you take in the scene, you can feel the pulse of the place, a rhythm set in motion by time, not just measured by the rising and setting of the sun, but by the celestial events above. The Maya didn't just live in the world. They lived in sync with the heavens. The high priests, standing atop the pyramid, gaze into the heavens not just for inspiration, but for divine guidance. They are the timekeepers, the ones who interpret the messages of the stars. From their vantage point, they observe the sky with precision, charting the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. The Maya believed that their world was closely intertwined with the cosmos, and that the movements of celestial bodies held profound significance for everything, from crop yields to wars, and even the fate of their rulers. But what really stands out here is that the priests didn't just observe the stars in a passive way. They didn't just look up and marvel at the beauty of the night sky. No, for them, the stars were active agents in the world, guiding and influencing events on Earth. Historians still argue whether the priests' interpretations of celestial events were entirely based on practical agricultural needs, or if they were driven more by spiritual or political motivations. Some scholars suggest that the priests used their knowledge of the stars as a means of maintaining power, controlling the people by linking important events like eclipses or planetary alignments to divine messages. Others believe that the priests genuinely saw the stars as living beings, capable of influencing life on Earth in real and meaningful ways. Whatever the case, the fact remains that the priests had an extraordinary amount of influence over the lives of the people, and it all stemmed from their understanding of time. One of the most significant celestial events in Maya culture was the zenithal sun, when the sun passed directly overhead at noon. This event, which occurred twice a year in the Maya lowlands, was considered a time of great power and renewal. When the sun reached its zenith, the Maya believed it was a moment when the heavens and earth aligned perfectly. It was a time of purification and strength. People would gather in the central plazas, offering sacrifices to the gods, hoping for good fortune and bountiful harvests. The priests would also use this moment to perform their most sacred rituals, aligning themselves with the gods through precise ceremonies that took into account the sun's position in the sky. If you were there, you'd feel the heat of the sun directly above you, as though the heavens themselves were pressing down. The air would be still, almost heavy with the energy of the moment. You'd see the priests raising their arms in reverence to the sun, their chants rising into the air as the entire city held its breath. The zenithal sun wasn't just an event. It was a powerful connection to the cosmos, a sign that the Maya were in perfect harmony with time itself. The sun was not just a source of light, it was a living force, and its passage across the sky was a reflection of the cyclical nature of time. This event wasn't just about rituals or prayers, it also had practical applications. For instance, the zenithal sun helped the Maya measure the time of year with incredible accuracy. Unlike the Gregorian calendar, which is based on fixed days, the Maya calendar was fluid, rooted in the observation of natural events. The zenithal sun was one of those events that allowed the Maya to synchronize their calendars with the changing seasons. Farmers would use this knowledge to determine the best time for planting and harvesting crops. The connection between the heavens and the earth was not a mere metaphor. It was a tangible, practical force that guided every aspect of life. In addition to the zenithal sun, the movements of Venus, the morning star, were also incredibly important to the Maya. Venus was seen as a powerful deity, and its appearance in the skyther in the morning or evening was a signal of great significance. Venus was associated with both war and love, depending on when it appeared in the sky. If Venus rose as the morning star, it was seen as a harbinger of conflict, a time for warriors to prepare for battle. If it rose as the evening star, it was associated with peace and harmony. The Maya watched Venus closely, as its cycles helped them time everything from diplomatic negotiations to military campaigns. Imagine walking through the city at dusk, with the stars beginning to twinkle in the sky, and Venus rising slowly on the horizon. You can feel the tension in the air as the priest, standing in the center of the plaza, begins to chant in anticipation. The arrival of Venus was no small matter. It marked the beginning of a new cycle, one that would shape the lives of the people. Whether this cycle brought war or peace was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The appearance of Venus was a reminder that the Maya were always connected to the forces of the cosmos. They were not passive observers. They were active participants in a celestial dance that had been unfolding for millennia. This deep connection to time and the heavens was not just limited to the priests and rulers. It permeated every level of Maya society. The knowledge of the stars and the cycles of time were available to all, and the calendar was a universal tool. The common people might not have had the same level of understanding as the priests, but they too knew when to plant their crops, when to celebrate festivals, and when to honor the gods. Time, for the Maya, wasn't something distant or abstract. It was something that affected everyone, from the highest ruler to the humblest farmer. And yet, even as the Maya built their cities, created their calendars, and performed their rituals, they knew that time was not entirely within their control. The gods were the true masters of time. And while the Maya could align their lives with the celestial rhythms, they could not predict or control everything. Natural disasters, unexpected wars, or changes in the environment could disrupt the carefully laid plans of even the most skilled priests and rulers. The Maya understood this, and they accepted it as part of the cyclical nature of life. So, as you stand in the plaza, watching Venus rise in the sky and feeling the rhythm of the universe surrounding you, remember that the Maya were not just observing time, they were living within it, breathing in its cycles and moving in harmony with the forces of the cosmos. Time wasn't a line to them, it was a circle, a never-ending loop that connected them to their ancestors and to the gods. Every moment was both an ending and a beginning, and in that eternal dance, the Maya found their place. Now, as the sun begins to sink beneath the horizon, casting long shadows across the vast expanse of the Maya city, it's time to explore the profound relationship the Maya had with the moon. While the sun was undoubtedly revered and central to their calendar systems, the moon held a place of equal importance, guiding the cycles of life through its constant, predictable phases. You could imagine the cool breeze brushing your skin as you walk through the bustling streets, where vendors hawk their wares and people prepare for the night ahead. The moon, just beginning to rise, would slowly reveal itself in the sky. its pale light providing the only illumination in a world where artificial light had yet to be invented. To the Maya, the moon wasn't just a secondary force, it was a vital rhythm, dictating the ebb and flow of life, much like the tides it helped control. They noticed its phases carefully, as each one carried significant meanings tied to various activities. Historians still argue whether the moon was seen as a feminine force or more of a neutral one. Some believe the Maya associated the moon with the goddess Ixchel, a powerful deity of the moon, love, fertility, and medicine. But what we know for sure is that the moon was a critical part of the calendar system, influencing everything from agriculture to religious ceremonies, marking the passing of days in a completely different way from the solar calendar. Imagine the scene. You're walking under the pale glow of the moonlight, and the air is thick with the scent of earth and flowers. As you pass a group of women gathering water from a cenote, a sacred sinkhole, they may be preparing for a ritual linked to the moon's cycle. Every new moon marked a time of renewal, a time when the Maya would take stock of their progress and cleanse themselves spiritually. The waxing and waning phases of the moon were symbolic of life's natural cycles, waxing for growth and expansion, waning for reflection and letting go. It was not just the priests who would observe the moon's phases, everyone did. And each phase had its own importance. This deep connection between the moon and the rhythms of life wasn't just a spiritual belief. The lunar calendar was directly tied to the agricultural cycles that the Maya depended on for survival. You can almost feel the connection between the earth and the sky. The moon's cycle determined when it was time to plant and when it was time to harvest. While the Hab and Tzolk'in calendars helped with the larger cycles of the solar year and the spiritual aspects of life, the lunar cycle brought practical knowledge to the farming communities. Farmers would look to the moon to decide when to plant their most crucial crops, especially maize, the sacred corn that was the foundation of their civilization. It wasn't just a matter of planting at the right time, it was about understanding how the moon could influence growth. A new moon might be seen as a time for planting, as it was believed to be a period of growth and fresh beginnings, while the waning moon was a time to harvest, as it was considered a time of closure. There was a profound understanding that every phase of the moon brought with it its own unique energy, and the Maya used this energy to guide their agricultural practices. But it wasn't just the mundane tasks of planting and harvesting that the moon influenced. It was woven into the very fabric of their mythology and rituals. As you wander through the marketplace, listening to the hum of life around you, you'd notice that much of what the Maya did was influenced by the moon's phases. Festivals, dances, and ceremonies were timed precisely according to the lunar calendar. The moon wasn't just a passive observer in the night sky. It was an active participant in the rituals of the Maya. In fact, some of the most important religious ceremonies of the Maya were dedicated to lunar deities and took place during specific phases of the moon. The goddess Ixchel, often depicted as an old woman with a moon crescent, was especially revered. She wasn't just a figure of fertility and medicine. She was also connected with the moon's influence on the tides and weather. To the Maya, the connection between the moon and the sea wasn't just symbolic, it was practical. The cycles of the moon directly impacted their fishing practices, as the tides would shift according to the lunar cycle, affecting the abundance of sea life. As you imagine standing at the edge of a cenote, watching the reflection of the moon dance on the water's surface, you can feel how deeply the Maya were connected to these cycles. Their rituals and celebrations were not mere acts of worship. They were essential, deeply ingrained parts of their daily lives. Every moonrise brought new meaning, new opportunities to connect with the divine. The Mayas' lives were shaped by the celestial movements that guided them, and the moon played a key role in shaping their worldview. Historians still argue over the precise role the moon played in Maya society. Some suggest that the lunar calendar was just as important as the solar calendar, while others argue that it was secondary, playing a more subordinate role in the grand design of the solar year. However, no matter which side you agree with, it's clear that the moon held a powerful influence. Every full moon was a call to action, a time for the Maya to honor their gods, reflect on their lives, and prepare for the future. As the moon continues to rise in the sky above you, its silvery light seems to bathe the city in a soft, calming glow. It's hard not to feel as though time has slowed, as if you've entered a world where everything is in perfect balance, where the cycles of the sky above are mirrored in the life around you. For the Maya, the moon was never just a distant celestial object. It was a living force, a powerful guide that shaped their existence in ways both spiritual and practical. The moon's cycle was a reminder that life was always in motion, always shifting, and always returning. The moon, waxing and waning in the night sky, became a symbol of eternal renewal, a reminder that with each ending, there would always be a new beginning. The Maya understood this deeply, and they embraced it with every step they took. Their world, as you now see, was one of perfect harmony, where time, the stars, the moon, and the earth all came together to guide them through life's never-ending cycles. As you stand under the vast night sky, with the moon hanging like a silent witness to the unfolding of time, you begin to realize that for the Maya, this deep connection to the cosmos wasn't just about understanding the natural world. It was a spiritual practice, a way to live in harmony with forces far greater than themselves. And while the sun and moon were their primary guides, there was another celestial body that held even greater significance in Maya culture: Venus, the morning star. Venus was not just a planet to the Maya, it was a powerful deity, a force that influenced both their day-to-day lives and their larger societal movements. If the sun symbolized the life-giving force of creation, and the moon represented the cycles of time and fertility, Venus was the harbinger of conflict, love, and transformation. Imagine the scene. The horizon is still dark as you look out over the jungle. The air crisp and cool. Slowly, Venus rises, a brilliant point of light that begins to shine through the fading darkness, heralding the dawn. To the Maya, the appearance of Venus in the morning sky was a powerful event, one that they watched for with great anticipation. They understood that Venus was not just a symbol of beauty and light, it was also a symbol of war and struggle. In fact, Venus was associated with the god Kukulkan, or Quetzalcoatl in other cultures, a feathered serpent god who represented the duality of both creation and destruction. The Maya didn't just observe Venus in a passive way. They saw it as a messenger, a deity that could predict or even influence important events in their lives. They believed that when Venus appeared in the morning sky, it was a time to prepare for conflict. This was a period when warriors would ready themselves for battle, when alliances were made, and when enemies were watched carefully. But Venus didn't just have a role in war, it also symbolized a time for personal transformation. For the Maya, Venus was a reminder that every day brought a chance to renew oneself, to embrace change, and to become something new. Historians still argue over how central Venus was in Maya society. Some scholars believe it was just another celestial event among many important, certainly, but not the only event worth noting. Others argue that Venus held an almost mythical status in the minds of the Maya, far more significant than other celestial bodies. To the Maya, though, it's clear that Venus played a key role in both the spiritual and practical aspects of life. If you were to walk through the streets of a Maya city in the early morning, you'd see the priests and rulers anxiously looking to the sky, watching for Venus's appearance, and interpreting its rise as a sign of what was to come. Whether that sign was war or peace, a new beginning or a time of destruction, Venus was there to guide them through it. But the influence of Venus was not confined to the warriors and rulers alone. Venus impacted everyone, from the most powerful kings to the humblest farmers. The appearance of Venus could signal a time for new beginnings, a time for sowing crops, or a time for harvesting. Imagine, as a farmer, looking to Venus to determine the best time to plant maize, the sacred crop that fed the Maya people. The rise of Venus didn't just mark the beginning of a new day, it marked the beginning of a new cycle, one that connected the human world to the divine forces that governed it. The very earth you stood on, the plants you harvested, and the animals you cared for were all part of the larger dance of time, orchestrated by the movements of Venus in the sky. The Maya were masters of observational astronomy, and their understanding of Venus's cycles was unparalleled. They tracked Venus through its phases, from the morning star to the evening star, carefully noting when it appeared and when it disappeared. They had a system of tracking its movements, using the Dresden Codex, one of the few surviving ancient Maya texts. This codex contained detailed observations of Venus, recording its appearance in the sky and its relationship to the solar and lunar cycles. The fact that the Maya were able to predict Venus's movements with such precision speaks to their deep understanding of time and their connection to the cosmos. But even beyond the practical use of tracking Venus for agricultural or military purposes, there was something deeply spiritual about the way the Maya saw this celestial body. Venus wasn't just a star in the sky. It was a living, breathing force that connected them to the gods. The Maya saw Venus as both a messenger and a symbol of the eternal struggle between light and darkness, life and death. They understood that just as the sun rose every morning, bringing light to the world, Venus too brought transformation. It was the ultimate embodiment of change, and with that change came both opportunity and danger.